Noong araw, usong-uso yung mga salitang Espanyol, halimbawa yung bahay sanglaan. Noong araw ng tawag dyan ay Agencia de Empeño. At noong mga 1960s, 1970s, marami pang mga jeep na nakasulat, Distancia, Amigo. Ngayon nawala na ang Kastila, tinapon na natin, napalitan ng Ingles for a while. Ngayon nawala na rin ang Ingles, kaya Engalog o kaya Taglish na lamang ang salita natin. Pero gusto kong bigyan pansin yung empeño, sapagkat yan ay galing sa Latin, penius, pledge. Kapag ikaw ay nagsangla, meron kang pledge. So binibigay mo yung relos, bibigyan ka ng pera. Empeñarse. Ngayon, ano ang Eucharistia? Sabi ni Santo Tomas de Aquino, sa Eucharistia, nobis penius datur future gloriae. A pledge of future glory is given to us. Sa madaling salita, isinangla ng Panginoon ang kanyang katawan at dugo. Patunay na malinaw kung ano ang ating kahihinatnan, kung ano ang kanyang panawagan sa atin, kung ano ang pamanang nakalaan sa atin. We live in a world of signs. When Russia began invading Ukraine, that was 2014 by the way. Tapos yung Luhansk, Donetsk at saka Kherson, tinatawag niyan Donetsk People's Republic, peke yan. Ang ginawa niyan, artificial migration, pinuno ng mga Ruso, and then gumawa ng artificial rebellion nung binomba ng mga Ukrainians. Sabi nila pinaparusahan at pinapersecute ang mga Russian speaking. Magaling magsinungaling ang komunismo. Communism is based on a lie, so you never can believe anything that Communist China Party. I'm not talking of Chinese. I love the Chinese but not the Communist Party. Okay? Communism is based on lies, and the Soviet culture is based on lies. So when they began invading Ukraine, lahat ng mga kotse ng mga Ruso, mga white Russians, yung tunay na Ruso from Moscow and St. Petersburg, nagsulat ng Z, letter Z sa kanilang kotse. No, nag-announce si Putin ng partial mobilization, binuraagan nila yung Z. Bakit? Ayaw nilang mamobilize sapagkat gusto lamang nila ang nanonood ng gera sa iPad. Ayaw nilang lumaban. Signs. We live in a world of signs, and signs are important in daily life. Why? Because they help us to communicate non-verbally. Signs indicate ideas and objects. Signs may indicate danger. So when you're traveling all over America in the freeways and expressways all over the United States, you see a bed, a sign of a bed, and spoon and fork. Nakaganyan, that means may motel. Motel is not a bad word except in the Philippines. May motel at saka may restaurant. It is a sign that says there is board, there is lodging, and there is the possibility to buy food. So, food service is available. Sa simbahan, ang tawag dito I forget names of authors. We have tried to focus. Now I know it's hard to listen because it's raining hard, raining cats and dogs. We have signs all over the place. When you enter the door of the church, there is the holy water font. That is a sign of holy water. You're entering a sacred area. We have the altar. We have candles. We have incense during solemn masses. We have the bells, the smells and the bells of the Christian Catholic imagination. They are all signs that point to something greater. We have incense, we have water, and last of all, but not least, wine and bread. Wine and bread. We have the sign of that we see everywhere, red. When you see red, you talk about passion, you talk about love, you talk about devotion. So pagka Valentine's Day, you never get to see green hearts, but red hearts. Because red is the symbol of love, passion, commitment, and devotion. Merong mga natural na mga tanda. Example, yung red. Red is a natural sign. Meron tayong mga conventional signs like traffic signs. Yan ay galing sa convention, ginawa ng lipunan. Pero ngayon ang pinakamahalaga, meron tayong sacramental signs. Oil, water, laying on of hands, and bread and wine. Today we focus on the bread and the wine. When you talk about bread and wine, you talk of food, you talk of fellowship, you talk about companionship, you talk about camaraderie, you talk about communion. So you don't want to eat with people you don't like, but you eat with friends, you eat with family, you eat with the people whom you call your own, and your enemies are not invited on your birthday party. Today, the Lord gives us the best of signs, the utmost of signs. Take this bread, he said. Take this wine, take this cup. This is my body, and this is my blood. What does that point to? Well, you can transfer the ordinary, conventional, and natural signs associated with food. You talk of love, you talk of self-offering, you talk of devotion, you talk of mutuality, you talk of fellowship, you talk of communion, assembly, togetherness, oneness, and this is the Eucharist. Today is a big special feast day, Solemnity of the Lord, the body and blood of Christ. It is just unfortunate that in our times we do not anymore celebrate this with a big solemn procession. Kasi kahapon ng traffic, I had a mass at 5 in UPS 4. I left here just a little after 4 and I reached the chapel at 5:15. It took me an hour, more than an hour, to travel from France all the way up to almost close to Sukat. Pagka-traffic, kaya ngayon nawala na mga prosesyon sapagkat hindi natin alam kung saan tayo magpuprosesyon at mayroong nagagalit pagka nagpuprosesyon. I remember when I was in Mandaluyong, I had a mass somewhere in Alabang at buwan ng Mayo sa maliliit at makitid na mga kalye ng Barangay Pag-asa, Barangay Daang Bakal, may double parking pa, ay mayroong 3 o 4 na Santa Cruzan na magkasalubong. Lahat ng kalye may Santa Cruzan. Nothing religious anymore. It's all about beauty pageant. It's all about socials and parties and so on. So, ngayon wala tayong prosesyon sapagkat una, tag-ulan, pagka Hunyo, gaya ngayon umuulan, and so we lose sight of the utmost dignity and worship and importance that we should give to the sacrament of the body and blood of Christ, the most holy body and blood of Christ. I'll give you some examples. Hindi na masyadong pinahalagahan ang Eucharistia. Una, sa isang parokyang pinagmimisahan ko, about 30 to 40% enter the church when I am giving my homily. And I've been saying masses there since 2004. Hanggang ngayon di pa rin nagbabago. Rumarampa pa, magmula sa entrance ng simbahan, uupo sa pinakaharap habang ako'y nag-homily. So, that's disrespect for the Eucharistic celebration. I'm not saying disrespect to me. It is disrespect to the assembly, the fellowship, the communion, the unity that should characterize our celebration of the Eucharist. Isa pa, dito sa parokyang ito, merong iba nung, lalo na ngayong pandemya, pagkatanggap ng komunyon, nilalagay sa wallet, sa purse, sa pitaka. Bakit? Ang dahilan nila, kailangan ko makipag-usap kay Lord. So, dinadala sa bahay. Yung iba naman, nangyari sa akin a few months ago, nung makuha yung ostya, nilipad ng helicopter fan, bumagsak sa swelo, iniwan na lang, hindi pinansin. Kakulangan ng pagpapahalaga sa Eucharistia. Ang simbahan nagiging nagiging sayawan kung minsan, kwentuhan, nawawala ang paggalang sa real presence, the Blessed Sacrament. Now, what do I want to imprint upon us all today? Kinakailangan nating pahalagahan sapagkat itong sign na ito ng bread and wine do not remain bread and wine. These are signs that effect what they signify. And therefore, when the Lord in the Last Supper said, take this and eat it, this is my body. And then take this cup and drink of it, this is my blood. That was the first Mass. And when the Lord shared His body and blood that He effected physically the day after, when He offered His life, His body and blood and all, by suffering and dying for us, that clinched it. The res et sacramentum, the real presence, yung res, ibig sabihin yan, galing sa, yung real ay galing sa res. Tunay at sacramental presence of the Lord in the bread, under the species of bread and wine. We need to uphold the utmost dignity and worship that is due to the Blessed Sacrament. And we should stop all the abuses that we have gotten so much used to be doing in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament. The presence of the Lord is real, physically, sacramentally. His presence in majesty, His presence in mystery, His presence through grace, and His presence that is real and sacramental in the bread and the wine that we partake of during Eucharist. Important lesson for us, the Lord promised one thing associated with taking the bread and the wine that is transformed into His body and blood. He promised something that we all want, life eternal. And when we receive the bread and the wine and the body and the blood of the Lord in communion, more than just fellowship in communion, in unity and oneness and camaraderie and feeling like we belong, you are receiving the empeño, the pledge of the future glory. The real agencia de empeño is happening here, right now.